Hello everyone and welcome back. My name is Sam.
And I'm Melissa.
And we are going to answer some more questions about where I came from, the FLDS community, growing up out there in the polygamist community.
Yep, for those of you who are new, his family in that polygamist group followed Warren Jeffs. So if you've heard of him, that's the polygamist group in southern Utah and Hilldale, Colorado City area.
Yes.
And go ahead.
Nope, I was just going to say a question that people have and that have had quite a bit actually is, what were the sleeping arrangements like in a house so big with so many children in it?
Yeah, I was just going to say, how many kids, I guess the first question would be, how many kids would be in the house at one time? Because just for reference, Sam's oldest biological sibling is older than my parents.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's huge age gaps
Yeah.
and huge gaps between the first and the second wife, which the second wife is Sam's biological mother. So
Yep.
there's big age gaps. So how many kids would live in a house at a time?
Oh, phew. Yeah, I mean, obviously, as they got older, they would move out, and when the older ones were there, the younger ones hadn't been born yet. So there's 36 of us that lived in the house, but at one time, I would probably say high teens, maybe low 20s.
Okay, and then how many siblings did you room with that like shared one single room with you?
Well, that depended on the, I guess, age and what time of life it was, because growing up, so when I was first born, and for my first 8 years of life, we lived in a double wide trailer. There was a double wide trailer, and then there was another single wide trailer right next to it. So we lived in these trailers, and so in that case, I mean, we were very small, at least I was, and man, it was just a lot of us brothers in one room. That's just on one end of the trailer, it was just dump the brothers in there.
Was it all one room though? Like, or was
there in the trailer there were a few rooms. Well, okay, so at the end of the double wide trailer, there was a boys' room.
Okay.
And that was for all the younger boys.
So how many? Like guesstimate.
This was a long time ago. This was
I'm trying to remember things from when you were 8. Putting them on the spot.
I have
You can give a
more
guesstimate.
details in the next house when we moved, but let's see here. Maybe 7 of us.
Okay.
8 of us boys in that room, and there we obviously were just in bunk beds.
Okay.
Yeah, and then on the other end of the trailer there was so on that end with the boys, one of the mothers slept there, had a room. On the other end there was the girls' room and another mother's room, and then in the middle, my father had his office / bedroom in the middle of the double wide trailer, and then in the other trailer that was right next to it, the single wide trailer, there were 2 rooms in that as well. So the older boys would sleep in one end of that trailer, and then on the other end of the trailer, father's first wife slept in that room.
Okay.
And then everything else, that was all that we had as far as rooms in that single wide trailer. Everything else in between was kind of a workshop. So we did a few side jobs here and there in that.
Okay, so then when you moved into, lots of little boys
Yeah.
in a single room, and then once you moved into your house,
Mm-hmm.
and there were obviously more rooms in that house, a lot bigger.
Moved across the street about the age of 8 or 9.
Okay.
I was 8 or 9.
And how many brothers were in that room with you then?
Yeah, so that was a much bigger house it was like hotel style. You walk down the hall and there were rooms lining the halls, so it was much bigger. In one room in that, so there was enough to kind of split us up. I'm trying to remember exactly. So in that room there were 4 of us. There were 4, and then one of the brothers moved out and ended up being 3 of us, older boys, and then let's see here. So there were 2 rooms for the boys, and then, man, it was all over the place. 2 rooms for the boys, 2 rooms for the girls, a room for each of the mothers, and generally in these rooms, it wasn't the boys from one mother would stay together in one room.
It was more about age group,
It was
right?
all about the age group. So
Okay.
this age boys would stay in this room, this age in the other room. Same with the girls. So they would just split them up based on their age.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then some people had asked too whether or not like certain age groups, like if boys and girls would share a room, but they never did. They always
No.
kept the boys and girls
No.
very separate.
Nope, very separate always. Generally one end of the hall to the other end of the hall, kind of split them up.
As a little boy, did you, like, what did bath time look like? Like when you were really little, did they put a bunch of you in the bath at the same time?
No,
or was it always?
I believe it was always separate.
Always
That I
separate,
can
okay.
remember. Since I could remember,
Okay.
it was always separate. Yeah. So they definitely kept the boys and girls apart as much as possible, especially when it came to things like bath time and that.
Yeah,
kind
well,
of
I assume they'd keep the boys and the girls separate for bath time. I just wasn't sure if there'd be like multiple boys or if it was.
Not that I remember. I imagine when we were babies, they would throw a couple of us in there at one time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure of that, but not that I personally remember
Okay.
doing anything like that. And I remember at a very young age having showers too. So I moved to shower quite early on.
You probably have to
Yeah.
be able to save water enough for that many people to
Right.
shower.
Right. Yeah, and I do remember as well. I do remember bath times as well, but in the bathtub in the trailer, we actually would heat up water and go dump it in there. I remember that for some reason, but anyway.
That would be a lot of water for that many people, and you'd
Well-
heat it up by hand?
Well, yes, but we would all take turns in the same
Oh, okay.
water.
So
you
like
know,
cleanest kid first?
Right, exactly. So several of us would go in and take a
Some-
bath in the same water. Yeah.
Sometimes we joke that Sam was kind of raised like in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Like if you imagine what it was like in the early Western days
Yeah.
of, cleanest kid goes first. Those type of things really happened when he was
It's true.
growing up.
It's true. It was a good time. But there were the really young children would sleep in with the mothers in their room.
Oh, okay. About what age
the
were they?
the nursing babies or a couple of year old. In fact, I believe even up to about 4 years old,
Oh, okay.
they would stay in with the mother.
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah.
And then another question that a lot of people ask is, as far as the mother's room goes, like, did your father have his own room?
Yep.
What were the mother's sleeping arrangements? And then when he was to spend time with each mother, what did that look like?
Good question. So once again, pretty secretive as far as that stuff goes. But yes, so each of the mothers had their own room, and so there were 4 mothers' rooms in the house, and then there were several children's rooms based on age. So, and then father had his room as well, and so they all had their separate rooms. And as far as sleeping arrangements go, as far as what I saw personally, the mothers always slept in their room and father always slept in his room. Obviously, they had children, so something would have happened eventually at some point, but I don't know how that was exactly. I heard stories about people walking in on people and that, but I never personally did. So that would be me telling something that someone told me, and I don't know. So anyway,
So they did a pretty good job of hiding it.
Yes, and I imagine that it was the mothers would sleep with father in his room at some point.
Gotcha.
That's my guess, because generally, like I say, the mothers would have little children in their rooms sleeping with them as well.
Oh, that makes sense. And with the children so close together, would they have like multiple younger children in the room with them at one time? Or were they
Yeah.
only ever like their youngest nursing?
Well, their youngest, but then they would have another one that was 2 years old at the time. So
Okay.
so yeah, there were at times several little children in the room at one time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that...
It's definitely a different dynamic than the norm, isn't it? But for me, growing up, it was perfectly normal. I didn't know anything different, and I thought it was amazing. And I was lucky enough to have a good childhood. I didn't have to deal with anything
Yeah.
that you hear some of these other people coming from FLDS communities or other polygamous groups. A lot of them have a lot of trauma they're dealing with and going through, and
Yeah.
thank goodness, I know that members of my own family have stuff that they're going through, but thank goodness I didn't have to deal too much with any of that. So
Yeah, I have one final question I just remembered that a lot of people have asked as well.
Yeah.
So with that many clothes, and you're dealing with like closets in your room, was it just like, if you were all the same age, was it just here's a bunch of clothes that should fit everybody, or did you actually have your own personal section of the closet, like your own clothes?
Yes, great question. And well, there were a lot of hand-me-downs. So hand-me-downs were definitely a thing, but we all had our own section. And
Okay.
I actually was very picky about my section of the closet. This was my section, no one touches.
He still is.
And and when I actually got a little bit older, I bought myself my own closet that was separate from the rest and just kind of put everything in my own little section. Or actually the closet might have already been there. Anyway, regardless, I had my own section. So it was very much split up into groups of these are my clothes, these are my clothes, generally within the same closet, but just organized in different sections.
Did you guys like write your names like on tags, or how would you keep track of that, or did you just know and so?
Yeah, we just knew. It was interesting though, because I mean the mothers would come and the sisters would come and do laundry, and the laundry room had several washers and several dryers, and it was just massive, and there was just looked like a laundromat of clothes just piled up, and they would go through and iron everything, clean everything.
That'd be my worst nightmare. I hate doing laundry so much.
I'm sure you could talk to my sisters about how much they love doing that.
I literally just made a sign for my laundry room that's like, washing 30 minutes, drying 60 minutes, putting away and folding 7 to 10 business days. And that's how I really feel about laundry. Like, I hate it. It takes forever for me.
Yes, and it's a never-ending chore too. So the second you put something away, there's more to do.
Yeah.
But that's how it was. It was just always
Constant.
piles and piles of laundry in the laundry room, and the mothers magically knew whose clothes belongs to, and so they would put it all away for us. Sometimes they would make piles, and then we would go and get our own clothes and put it away. And then sometimes they would accidentally put someone else's shirt or pants in the closet in the wrong spot, but we would notice right away and switch it out. So,
man.
a lot of fun. But no, we all had our own sections, and for some reason it was easy to tell whose clothes were whose. So,
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you guys want to hear more stories about Sam growing up in polygamy, then please like and subscribe, and we'll talk to y'all soon.
We will talk to you soon.